We've got top 5 on the mind tonight on Golf Central. Top 5 players in the world all teeing it up this week in Mexico City. We're going to hear from them as they get ready for the first World Golf Championship event in 2018. Speaking of the WGC Mexico Championship, what a debut it had a year ago. We're diving into the top 5 holeouts from the inaugural PGA Tour event in Mexico City. Plus, momentum seems to be building for Team Europe with an eye towards this fall's Ryder Cup in Paris. Just how good could this team be? That's all ahead as Golf Central starts right now.
Golf Central. Brought to you by TaylorMade.
Hey there, welcome into Golf Central. I'm George Savaricas, next to a guy who's always in my top 5. That's Golf Channel analyst Tripp Eisenhower. Tripp, we're going to dive into the top 5 in the world in just a bit. But this week in Mexico City, a week where distance isn't an issue.
No, it's not. They're playing at altitude. Look for long drives and a ton of holeouts. There were a lot of those last year. In fact, the most on the PGA Tour last season.
We will have that later in the show. Let's get to our countdown, though. The top 5 in the World Golf Rankings. We begin with number 5, the winner of the last WGC in 2017, the WGC HSBC champions. That's Justin Rose. He had a remarkable comeback that Sunday to get the W. Finished the year off about as hot as any player. Rose realizing the sense of urgency, though, at this stage of his career.
I know I have to be my best. My time is kind of not running out, but I need to. I've got maybe 3 or 4 or 5 more, years to really make the most of my career, to really put a nice little cherry on top of my career. And the standard is improving out here. There's no doubt about it. If you look at the world rankings, more guys are earning more points. The top guys are earning more points, I think, than they ever have, is what it feels like to me. So it's very competitive. It's very hard to forge your way into the top 5 in the world right now with how many wins these young players are racking up.
And then we move to number 4, Jordan Spieth. He tied for 9th in his last start at the Genesis Open at Riviera. He's seeking his first win since that spectacular finish to the Claret Jug at the Open at Royal Birkdale. Spieth has 5 top 10s and 15 WGC starts, but has never won one. Talked about his preparation leading up to this week.
The last 2 days went really well. Striking the ball well. My distance control has been very, very solid to start. So for me, I've been hitting the ball well. I've been on a very nice trend in my short game and putting. It's just going to be about controlling the ball and hitting a lot of fairways off the tee. So I'm not sure if that means I'll play more aggressive or conservative yet, but we'll have a plan that we'll stick to by tomorrow afternoon.
From 4 to 3, where we find the most recent winner on the PGA Tour, Justin Thomas. JT capturing his 2nd win this season, tied for the lead on the PGA Tour with Patton Kizzire, reigning PGA Tour Player of the Year, playing with a lot of confidence this part of the season.
I'm very excited and very thrilled where my game's at. I feel like I'm playing very, very well. I feel like I have a lot more control over my game than I maybe did last year. I had more wins, obviously, coming into this event than last year, but in terms of a consistency factor, I just everything is tightened up a lot more, which is what I really like, what I think is going to propel me to have more chances to win golf tournaments. Whether that's going to happen or not, you never know. That's the crazy and hard part about this game. But all I know is I just need to continue to put in the work and just see what we can do.
And now we move to numero dos, Jon Rahm. See what I did there, George? Finished tied for 3rd in Mexico last year and announced he will donate $3,000 for every single eagle this week and $1,000 for every birdie to the Mexico Red Cross for earthquake relief. With a win this week, Rahm can become world number 1 only if DJ also finishes 58th or worse. He says he and DJ play a similar game.
Funny enough, we actually play a really similar game. We were talking about it today. We were saying if we can hit a driver of a tee, we're going to hit a driver of a tee. We'd rather hit a driver and miss the fairway than lay up and miss the fairway. So we both have a very similar mindset. When it comes to Dustin, he's just really steady. It's a guy who is very hardly going to be field-faced, is very hardly going to feel unbalanced, and is very hardly going to feel like he doesn't have a chance to win. So when a guy feels like that, all you can do is try to feel the same way he does and act the same way he does, and hopefully you can beat him.
Speaking of Dustin Johnson, the guy at the top of the mountain, world number one, he's your defending champ, and he's been on quite the tear in WGC events in recent years. DJ already with one win this season at the Century Tournament of Champions, where he won by 8 shots. All started for DJ in the WGCs back in the 2013 HSBC Champions. That was the first of what's become 5 career World Golf Championship victories for the top-ranked golfer in all of the land. DJ, the only player with the WGC Slam on his career resume. With more, here's Todd Lewis, who's covering this week's event in Mexico City.
Well, George, it was here at the WGC Mexico Championship that Dustin Johnson made his competitive debut as the world's #1 player. He went on to win here last year, validating his ascent to the top spot in the ranking, and he's held on to that #1 ranking ever since. However, even though he's won in 2018, he feels like his game right now is not quite the same as it was 12 months ago.
Coming in here last year, I felt like everything was really good in the golf game. You know, it's tough to improve from there, but I've been working hard to get things back to where it was last year. I felt like it's close. It's not quite there, but yeah, I mean, I felt like everything's pretty close. It's hard to improve on from how well I was playing last year.
DJ, not to be negative here, but are you aware that you could lose your ranking at #1 in the world here this week? And if so, is that motivation at all?
I mean, yeah, I want to stay #1, but I want to win every golf tournament I play in also. So, you know, if someone plays well and beats me and gets to #1, they deserve it. And so it's okay with me. I'll just have to go win the next tournament and get back to #1.
Today, Dustin Johnson played a 9-hole practice round in a foursome that included, interestingly enough, Jon Rahm, the player that could leapfrog Dustin Johnson and take over the #1 spot in the official World Golf ranking. Rahm and Johnson have played a lot of practice rounds and competitive rounds together over the last 12 months. And Rahm told me that the biggest thing that he's impressed by from Dustin Johnson's game, his steadiness. Never too high, never too low. And he hopes to apply that to his game as he moves forward in his career. George?
Jon Rahm will get to see a healthy dose of that steadiness as he's playing in the same group as Dustin Johnson, as well as world #3 Justin Thomas. Those 3 guys all together, and they're going off at 12:51 Eastern time on Thursday. Going to be fun to see those 3 guys who can blast it off the tee, playing at more than 7,000 feet elevation. Another group to keep an eye on. You have world #4 Jordan Spieth. EC world #5, Justin Rose. Missing world #6, Hideki Matsuyama, battling that left wrist injury, so it's Ricky Fowler rounding out that threesome. And Spieth played the 17th and 18th holes today alongside the most accomplished golfer in Mexico's history, Lorena Ochoa. Ochoa won 27 LPGA events in her career, including 2 majors, before retiring in 2010 at 29 years old to start a family. The 2 major champions met for the first time today.
Local and international celebrity, one of the World Golf Hall of Famer and one of the greatest women's players to ever play the game. It was an honor to meet her. It was weird having her ask me questions. I had so many questions for her, but it was I think a pretty cool experience that you know, I'm looking forward to seeing kind of the final product from it.
It's always difficult when you ask, you know, it's kind of like complicated to do it in your practice round and taking a little bit of his time. But he says yes since the beginning, you know, just very open, very easy, relaxed. We talk a little bit about the way he plans the year, you know, his family, his routine, just little things that, you know, I was really excited to spend a little bit of time with him. I'm glad I hit the ball okay, so it didn't look too bad. And it was a great day. Thank you.
Joined by our insider, Tim Rosefort. Lorena Ochoa, Rosie, is doing her part to help grow the game of golf in her home country of Mexico. How has this tournament helped over the last year?
In many ways, growing a game is what it's all about. I went down last year to do a piece for Golf Channel, met Benjamin Salinas, the chairman of the golf tournament and the real founder for this event. And his message was the same then as it was when we spoke yesterday and as it was in a news conference today down in Mexico City.
We want to bring tournaments that could add world ranking points to the players here in Mexico. So that's our #1 concern. And I think regarding players, I think there's definitely a boost. We've been measuring the private golf courses around. Of course, there's a lot more participation. But the most important thing is when we have public golf courses. That's our next big challenge. When we can have public golf courses built in every state. Here, our good friend Accra told us that the state of Mexico could be interested in building a public golf course. So we could do it together, of course. So that's our next challenge. So it could really grow.
George talked to Agustin Pisa today. He's executive director of the First Tee down in Mexico. There's really only 2 chapters at this point, Puebla and Tijuana, 20 kids at each school, at each facility. Just sort of, it's kind of in the grassroots right now. It's really starting to build and grow. The tournaments certainly help the recognition. And talking to Agustin, these are the type of kids that don't come from much money. They had a chance to meet some players earlier this week at Chapultepec, and they all were given a box lunch, a free box lunch, and Agustin was describing how they just held on to those box lunches. So breaking a lot of ground here, but potential is certainly there for it to be a golf country as well.
Yeah, still a lot of room for growth, for sure, Rosie. All right, still to come tonight on Golf Central. Your one provided no shortage of signature moments in Mexico City. Top 5 shots that we saw from the 2017 at Chapultepec Golf Club, and a look at the rise of Tommy Fleetwood and Alex Noren. Trip Eisenhower pinpoints a part to watch from each of their games. That's next.